I'd like to call to order the regular meeting for the council, City Council for the City of Springdale for October 15th, 2025. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and please remain standing for the invocation.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Abba, Father, this body ordained by you seeks your guidance so that we may reflect your will and your design. As your words clearly state, you are the way, the truth, and the life. Let us strive to reflect your character by acting and speaking with wisdom and benefit of our residents. Father, grant us this wisdom to pursue this. Let us be a reflection of your perfect will and character as we carry out our duties. Allow us to always reside in your will and character. This we ask in your Son's holy name. Amen.
Ms. Brown, if you could take roll.
Mr. Gleaves.
Present.
Mr. Jacobs.
Present.
Ms. McFarland.
Present.
Mrs. Salvo-Meiskop.
Present.
Mr. Vanover.
Present.
Mrs. Webster. Mr. Anderson.
Present. All right, council, in your package, you received the minutes for the October 1st, 2025 meeting. What is your pleasure?
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions, discussion, or updates? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes as published signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The minutes are approved by assent. All right. Before we get to committee and official reports, I just wanted to give note to council. In our meeting last time, we had mentioned that there was going to be a presentation from KZF at tonight's meeting. It wasn't put on the agenda specifically, but just know that we'll get to that presentation during number 7, communications to council. So that's when we'll have that presentation we talked about last meeting. All right, on to committee and official reports. First up, Civil Service Commission, Mr. Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, Council. The Springdale Civil Service Commission met on October the 2nd, 2025 in the Springdale Municipal Building. Members of the commission in attendance were Mrs. Kathy McNair, Mr. James Dunnigan, Assistant City Administrator Stephanie Morgan, and Human Resource Administrator Renetta Edwards, along with myself, Chairman of the Civil Service Commission, Robert Coleman. Referencing reports to the commission, Mrs. Edwards reported that Taryn Radford was promoted to the position of Finance Account Clerk 2. And this is important because it started a chain of events as a result of her getting promoted, which therefore left vacancies, which then caused us to take a look at our hiring position. So as a result of the promotion of Ms. Radford to the Finance Clerk 2 position, an Account Clerk 1 vacancy followed. And due to this situation, a new hiring timeline was presented to fill this vacancy. Mr. Dunnigan made a motion to approve the timeline as requested, and it was seconded by Mrs. McNair, and that motion passed 3-0. Next up, a new hiring timeline for a police clerk vacancy was presented for approval by the commission. And again, this was the result of a recent vacancy within the police department. Mr. Dunnigan made the motion to approve this timeline, and Mr. McNair seconded the motion, and that motion passed 3-0 as well. Lastly, a request from administration was presented to waive the civil service testing requirement for the police clerk position. That was necessary in order to make sure that the individual had the requisite skills and qualifications necessary for the position. It was thought that the testing would slow the process down and may not produce the quality candidate that we were looking for. So we did, in fact, Mr. Dunnigan made a motion to waive the testing requirement. Mrs. McNair seconded, and the motion passed 3-0. The next meeting is scheduled for November the 6th at 2 p.m. And that concludes my report. Any questions?
Don't see any. Thank you, Mr. Coleman.
All right.
All right, next up, Rules and Law, Mr. Jacobs.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report.
Finance Committee, Mr. Vanover.
Thank you, Mr. President. General fund beginning balance as of September 1 was $7,686,383. The revenues for September were $1,899,838. Excuse me. The expenditures for September were $1,713,308, thus giving us a general fund ending balance of $7,872,913. That would conclude my report.
All right, thank you. Next, we have Planning Commission, Ms. Sullivan-Wisecup.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Or, sorry, Mr. President. So I was used to doing, we just had planning yesterday. I was still in planning head, sorry. We had Beyond Hello from 12140 Springfield Pike come. They were coming for a minor modification. It was for buffers, landscaping on the north and east side. They wanted to cut it down to 0, and we told them that they needed to work with the city about getting more vertical so that it breaks up some of the brick on the side of that building, because it is going to be quite a large building on that side. So they will be getting with the staff from the city and approving what will be planted over there. And that is everything that I had, unless Ms. McFarland had anything or any questions. That did pass, sorry, that did pass the 7-0 vote, sorry. So yes.
All right, don't see any other questions. Thank you. Next, we'll have Board of Zoning Appeals, Mr. Gleaves.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report.
Board of Health, Ms. McFarland.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Board of Health met last Thursday, October 9th. Started with the Commissioner's report. We did have an update on the Wawa opening date, which I think we all know now is November 7th. Slick City did open on the 10th, which was this past Friday. We did have our second reading and public hearing for Regulation R1, R2, and R3, which are our license fees for food operations, public pools and spas, and hotels, motels. We will have our third reading and pass those or vote on those at our next meeting in November. We did recognize several months of Employee of the Month from the Health Department, including Charles Noble, Marley Brenner, Pushkar Bhatia, Emily Butcher, and Becky Carrasco. The Commissioner did present some information to us regarding the recent executive order from Governor DeWine regarding the hemp 8 products that are being removed from locations around the state. They're being mistaken for candy and given to children. So that is something that I definitely would advise you to go check out. It's not something you want your kids to get their hands on. So lastly, we had our nurses report. We did have no Narcan uses in September. We had our vaccine clinic for the month with 19 people and 55 vaccines given. We had 3 new referrals for home visits. Our BP clinic, blood pressure clinic was scanned 42 of our seniors. And then we did have an update on the health fair, which was held at the rec center and was very well attended. And our next meeting is November 13th.
Thank you. Don't see any questions. Next, capital improvements, Ms. Sullivan-Wisecup.
Thank you, Mr. President, no report.
All right, next for OKI. OKI did meet, the Board of Directors did meet on October 9th, and we reviewed the Executive Committee meeting from the month prior. 2 major actions occurred that Council should be aware of. The first one is the TIP project update. This is one of the bigger grant blocks where money comes to projects like what we have in Northland Boulevard. Things like that flow through these money. This is where the STB, the Surface Transportation Grants, get approved, and other federal funds. The board did approve $82 million worth of projects, which represented 52 of the 62 applications. That's up from $50 million that were approved last year. So there was a lot of money that was moving and actually able to flow to projects in our region. 2 of them that are local that people might see. One of them is in Forest Park on Winton between Kemper and Sharon. One of the projects approved was a multi-use path there. That was just over $1 million that was approved. There was also 15 simple repaving projects approved. This was the program that I told you about in a previous meeting where it was a pilot program where simple repaving projects could now be paid for through some of these funds. All 15 apps that were submitted were approved, and around $11 million of local match was covered by toll revenue. So these ended up being just complete pass-through projects for the communities that deployed them. One of the projects is also in Forest Park that was approved. That was, again, repaving on Winton was also approved through this program. So it's a good opportunity. The intent is to have that program run again, so we should be looking for deadlines and opportunities to use that. They really are looking for ways to make this money flow quickly to projects that are shovel-ready and ready to go. So we should keep an eye out on that. And then the last thing that was included was a TIP amendment. This is an update to projects. One of them that people might see in the near future is I-275, a new connector between Reed-Hartman and I-71. That's a problem area, and a new connector is now being funded through this program. So that's something that should help, at least for highway traffic, as people flow from 275 over there and then going to south to avoid some of the delays. So that'll be nice. That's it for OKI, unless there's any questions. I don't see any, so we'll move on. Mayor's report, Mayor Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. A number of things. First off, we had a ribbon cutting at Microland on September 25th of this year. A very classy affair. It looked like it should be a black tie event. They had a red carpet, representatives from all over the country, as well as the world from their corporation. Had several elected officials there and city staff. Microland was very excited to expand into Springdale and puts them closer to several of their main clients, including GE Aerospace. So that was great, and we welcome Microland. We had a ribbon cutting for Tinker's Treasure on October the 4th. It was over there by Sam's Club, and it's a business with several businesses within it. So people rent booths and then sell their wares. Lots of interesting things folks to see in there and buy, and they can go check that out. I had the opportunity to tour the Hamilton County Convention Center. I'm on the Convention Facility Authority Board, and so the expansion down there has been moving along quickly. The renovation will have a total of 750,000 square feet. An exhibit hall is going to be 200,000 square feet. The exterior facades being renovated, and across 5th Street, they're going to build a bridge where there will be a hotel eventually at that site with a major flag. There's also going to be a new feature with regard to an outdoor plaza that's going to be there, and that should be opened up probably by December. They're hoping to have ice skating out there and some other events for this winter. They also are going to have a rooftop area where you can go out as well as an extension of the exhibit space. Our fire department had their annual open house on October the 4th. It was well attended and a great event as usual. Lots of things you could see. Got to, for my first time, use a fire extinguisher, so that was fun. They did a demonstration where they were cutting up a car. So as usual, they're bringing fire safety to the community. And we also had our health fair on October the 4th, and a variety of information was made available, and a good number of providers and healthcare partners were present. And it was also an opportunity to get vaccination shots and flu shots. I got my flu shot while I was down there too. As referenced by Ms. McFarland, Slick City is open, and they're going to have their grand opening on October 28th at 4 p.m. So that's when they'll do their ribbon cutting. At the rec center, the senior room renovations are complete, and noting again that was paid for with a block grant, so that was good to save money from our general fund coffers. Also, with regard to the rec center, the rec commission is accepting Memorial Hall of Fame nominations, and so the rec commission decided to open that up as well to the community. You can go online. There's information with regard to making nominations, or you can drop them off at the rec center as well. We're almost winding down. 2 more things. Susan Wider, a longtime Springdale resident of over 40 years, an educator of the Princeton School District and on the Princeton School Board, had retired from service and was honored on October 13th with an open house, and at the board meeting were several proclamations were read. I think every mayor or first lady were present at that event with regard to all 6 of our municipalities, and everyone honored Ms. Wider with regard to her long-time service, and she left some indelible marks with the work that she did over the years, and she touched many, many people with regard to her time serving in that capacity. Lastly, want everyone to know we're going to reseal the time capsule on December 1st. We're still working on a time, and to be reopened December 1st of 2050, 25 years from now. Myself, department heads are going to be writing letters in reference to innovations that have been made, challenges we face, goals we're working towards. We're encouraging each council member, if they are so inclined, again, you don't have to, but we're encouraging you 7 to write a letter to future council members from 25 years out. Similarly, in terms of your experiences and what you're dealing with and what you're hoping for the future. From council, we're asking to have those to the administration by November the 1st, so that we can include those as well and get those sealed. And we will have more information with regard to that forthcoming. That concludes my report unless there are any questions.
I do see one. Ms. Webster?
This is a question for Mayor Hawkins. Have they decided who's going to take over the closet or what's going to happen to it?
Yes, ma'am. So Anna Johnson, who is another Princeton grad, she's already taken over the closet, and there were some jokes with regard to how it was at one point moved to the garage, the bus garage, and Ms. Wider was not happy about that, and Tom Burton, former superintendent, was present and asked to come up and speak, and he said, I'm the one who made it get moved to the garage. So everyone was laughing at that. But Ms. Johnson actually has moved it over to what used to be Walton's in Sharonville, right off of 42. Used to be the Walton's Pinball and Game Arcade. So it's over there now, has its own home, and she's running the show and excited to do it.
She did a wonderful job with that.
She did.
A wonderful job.
She did.
It was a real plus. Thank you.
All right, don't see any other lights. Next, we'll move on to the administrator's report. Mr. Yule.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a follow-up item regarding the bodega that had been asked about a couple meetings ago. I know reported out that there was some right-of-way permits that were pulled, but nothing on the interior and whatnot. Ms. Hayes did reach out to the Sugar Right just to ask them if their intention was to continue to move forward, and they said they're continuing to work on their plan, but they don't have any definitive start date yet. So I just want to provide council that quick update. Also, you'll notice our leaf collection has started. So residents are reminded to rake their leaves down to the curb, and our crews will be through to pick those up. I did drive around yesterday and noticed several areas they do have more leaves down than others. But nonetheless, Public Works is trying to get ahead of everything, so they're grabbing what they can. You may also see the chipper out from time to time. We are doing some tree work and removing some ash trees. So the chipper is not running. That service ended back in September, but if you do see it out, it's because we're chipping what we're cutting down in various locations throughout the city. So that's the end of my report.
One question, Mr. Jacobs.
Just congratulations and kudos to the city. I noticed the Veterans Memorial got a really nice pressure washing and cleanup. It looks fantastic, just in time for Veterans Day. So great job to the city staff.
All right, don't see any other questions. Next, Law Director's report.
Thank you all very much for having me. Joe has been pretty sick all week. It takes a lot for him not to be here, so he's pretty down for the count. But it's always good for me to be here and see you all. Thank you for having me. I was able to talk to him earlier today, and he has no report.
Well, thank you, and I always say more Jeffs at the podium, the better, so thank you for being here.
Agreed, Mr. Anderson.
All right, next up we have Engineers Report, Mr. Riggs.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, just a few quick things. So Northland Boulevard, the contractor did switch over to the Phase 3 maintenance traffic. Basically, they're maintaining traffic on the outside lanes. They closed the 2 inside lanes while they continue to work on the landscaping inside the median. That work in the median is probably going to take through the winter and going into the spring of next year when they'll come back. The contractor will come back and start paving vinyl surface and putting in the vinyl pavement markings on. The East Kemper Phase 1 improvements, We're wrapping up 90% plans. We're working to get those out to the utilities by the end of the month to finalize our utility coordination efforts. The Kemper Northland intersection realignment and Kemper Road shared use path, that's basically Northland Boulevard Phase 2. We completed the feasibility study back in August. We received partial ODOT review comments on October 8th. We're working through to address those as they come in. But we're hoping to get all the comments addressed here probably in the next month so we can go into final engineering within the next month or so, probably 2 months from now. The Springdale Industrial Park concrete repairs and catch basin reconstruction. So the bulk of that work probably will not happen until the spring, but the contractor's out today. Actually, I drove by this afternoon and they were working on removing that old railroad crossing on Tricon. So that is going to be done probably by the end of the week. It looks like they're halfway through today. And that's all I had.
Don't see any questions. Thank you, Mr. Riggs. All right, next up we have the Rental Program Committee. Mr. Vanover.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Rental Committee met on October the 8th, and we, discussed and looked at some data from a intense month of enforcement from the building department. We had 25 violations, 12 were owner-occupied, 13 were rental properties, and all but 2 of them had been taken care of. And really the discussion kind of headed in a path that this is, we will be disbanding. We have gone as far as we can go at this point. The committee started about 4 years ago. In the first 2 years, we really worked on enforcement, building department regulations. I'm very happy with what we've got and the program there. And the last couple years, we've worked on the parking conditions over in Heritage Hill, and which actually resulted in a number of parking spaces pulled off the street for safety reasons. And with wrapping it up, but there is one item that we would like to bring forward, and that is a request, a resolution going to Columbus to beg, borrow, and steal and plead to get more support from the legislative side because there are a lot of issues that the federal government or state has cut our legs out from underneath us, and we need support from them. And this is a problem that is going throughout the area. It's not just Springdale. It's everywhere. So I would like to ask for council's concurrence that the resolution be brought forward and presented at our next meeting. And with that, that would conclude my report.
All right, and just for council's benefit, what Mr. Vanover is speaking to is really about one of the issues that we ran into with the Rental Program Committee that Springdale wasn't able to address is really around occupancy. Springdale has an occupancy limit on its books based on the size of the house, the type of location it is, and there's a belief that some of the health and safety issues that go along with that are a challenge for us to address as a city. There isn't a resolution that the council could bring forward to enforce it because the types of things that we would need to do to enforce that ordinance are prohibited by state or federal law. So the committee had asked council to consider looking at a request to the state and federal agencies to kind of look at what they're doing that is affecting us. And we can take that up under new business. We can take that up. We'll take that up as a council, that request. But that's what it'll be, and we can talk about that more there. But as Mr. Vanover mentioned, the Rental Program Committee did decide as part of its meeting that we think that we've taken that as far as we could, as that committee's scope was originally set out to look at the issues that we already took care of. So with that, I want to thank Mr. Vanover for chairing that committee for the last 3.5 years, and then also for Ms. Megan Sullivan-Weisskopf, who was a part of it along the way, along with me. That was one of the more collaborative committees I've been a part of. I think the committee did a really good job bringing forward that nuisance law that's been used to good effect. We had really good collaboration with administration and all the department heads as we went along there, and I think it was a good model for how those committees could work. So I appreciate the leadership that was shown there. But with that, I am, just for the record, disbanding the rental program committee as it was originally scoped to do. So we won't see that in our reports going forward, but that ends with my thanks. All right, next we'll move on to the Zoning Code Revision Committee. Mr. Gleaves.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Zoning Code Revision Committee met on October 13th with attendees including city staff, representatives from McBride, Dale Clarion, and the Planning Commission, and even Mayor Hawkins stopped in on us to grace us with his presence. The committee reviewed a list of areas within the zoning code identified for improvement. In-depth discussions were held to develop appropriate changes aimed at enhancing enforcement and interpretation. Due to the length of the proposed changes, weekly meetings will be held to ensure timely review and development of code recommendations. That's all I have if there's any questions.
No, thank you for that. Although I will mention that there were probably 2 or 3 things that the rental program committee did kick over to zoning, so we appreciate you taking those torches and moving with them because they're really outside the scope of what we're doing there. So.
Thank you.
All right, that ends committee and official reports. Next, we'll move on to communications. As I mentioned, one of the first things we're going to do as part of communications to council is a presentation from KZF on the Mill Creek presentation. So if KZF wants to come forward and go ahead and take us through this. And I'm sorry, I know your name's Eric, but I apologize. I don't know your last name. I would have
Anderson, Eric Anderson.
Anderson, okay. That's fine. Thank you for that. Well, we do need more Andersons at the dais too, so you're welcome to take the mic.
All right, good evening, Mayor, Mr. President, and Council. My name's Eric Anderson, as we mentioned. I'm Vice President of KZF Design. We're a Cincinnati-based architecture engineering firm. Personally, I lead a lot of our bike pedestrian master planning work within the firm, including recently the city's bike pedestrian master plan. I'm here to give an update on what we're calling the Mill Creek Connector feasibility study that we completed in September. So the city applied for a mini planning grant from Hamilton County in 2024, and funds were awarded to study a shared use path that connects the planned bike and pedestrian facilities that Mr. Riggs mentioned along Northland Boulevard in that area, all the way down to the Glenwood Gardens to Winton Woods shared use path, which should be starting construction in November. This connection is based off of recommendations from the Bike Pedestrian Master Plan that was adopted in 2022. The purpose of this feasibility study is to identify and recommend a preferred alignment to connect these 2 areas, as well as estimate construction costs. So this information then can be used to apply for grant funds that can be used for construction of the path. The Mill Creek Connector will be a key corridor within the city of Springdale's bike and pedestrian network. It will be a critical link between downtown Springdale, planned local bike and pedestrian facilities, and it will help connect the city to the region's growing bike pedestrian transportation network. The trail will provide safe and convenient bicycle and pedestrian access to both existing and planned multimodal infrastructure in the region. So this study, we first took a look at existing conditions in an area between Kemper to the north and Sheffield Road to the south, east and west between Springfield Pike and Southland Road. We looked at opportunities to improve bike and pedestrian safety as well as connectivity to existing and proposed sidewalks in the city. We also looked at constraints that would need to be avoided, worked around, or addressed during design or later in construction. We also looked at connections to the surrounding trail network as well. After looking at existing conditions, we outlined a variety of neighborhood and connecting streets, public and private property, to identify 9 different alignments to connect downtown Springdale to the Glenwood Gardens to Winton Woods bike trail. We looked at a variety of features when we were evaluating these 9 alignments, looking at safety, user experience like comfort, shade, aesthetics, accessibility to users, connections to neighborhoods, to existing sidewalks, and path alignments that would improve access to important destinations. We also looked at cost and constructability, looking at grading, tree removals, utility relocations if they would be required, as well as land acquisition, prioritizing alignments that fit within the existing right-of-way or on city property, as well as minimizing impacts to private landowners. We also looked at environmental potential impacts and wildlife habitats to reduce mitigation costs, and lastly, maintenance and long-term upkeep. Looking at these 9 alignments, we then scored them all based on those evaluation criteria and compared them, stacked them up together to identify a preferred alignment. The analysis was broken down into 3 sections: Northland to West Sharon to Southland going east-west, and then a connection point to Sheffield Road to the south. When setting an alignment for a road like this, we look at what we call logical termini, which are rational start and end points for the project. Looking at the preferred alignments, which I'll talk through in a second, Springfield Pike and Northland were identified as one termini, as well as Toulon Road and Sheffield to the south. Looking at this map, the 2 dots are the logical termini. You can see the recommended alignment, which I'll talk through in a second. And then down at the bottom of the map, the red line is the proposed Glenwood Gardens to Winton Woods bike trail. The alignment itself, we recommend utilizing the east side of Springfield Pike. That's the northbound side of the road, taking that down to West Sharon Road. The trail would then cross at the existing crosswalk that was recently improved. We then would recommend renovating the existing bike path along West Sharon Road. It is identified as a bike path, but it doesn't meet standard widths that you would use for a bike path now, or a shared use path. So recommending replacing that and widening it. That would take us across Sharon, all the way across Sharon Road to Ballinger. So we're using the city's existing right-of-way along Ballinger to loop over to Southland Road. And then the trail would follow on the northbound east side of Southland, Sheffield Road. It has different names. South to the Glenview Golf Course, which is owned by the city of Cincinnati. This last leg on the Glenview Golf Course property would require some coordination with the city of Cincinnati, Cincinnati Recreation Commission, and a variety of other departments to get an easement. We used this approach on the Glenwood Gardens to Winton Woods bike trail. So it does work, and the city of Cincinnati is usually happy to partner to build more bike trails. The design itself, so we're proposing a 10 to 12 foot wide pathway on one side of the street. We go with this width because it allows for different users to use the same path at once. So bicyclists, walkers, runners. It allows for two-way travel, and it's wide enough for someone to pass if two people are walking by. This would be along existing roadways just on one side of the street. Existing sidewalks on the other side of the street would remain. And there would also be a buffer between the path and the roadway for safety. So just a couple of images here. This is looking at Springfield Pike to the north. You can see the existing sidewalk on the northbound, the right side there, and we put together a little image that shows the widened path replacing that sidewalk. Same thing, view of West Sharon Road. The top is existing. The bottom image is proposed. You can see on the left side of this, you can see the existing path at the top, and then the widened path at the image below. And then Sheffield Road, same thing. This is looking northbound again. Just due to the topography of the image, it looks like it's floating in the air, but you can fit in a 10 to 12 foot wide path on the northbound side of Sheffield Road. So, quick overview there. What happens from here? So with this study, the city has the tools to start applying for grant funds for this project. There are several federal, state, and local funds to consider. OKI, Regional Council of Governments, has an annual grant program that aligns with a project of this nature. The city can start applying now that they have costs and a recommended alignment. Once you have some awarded grant funds, those can be paired up with other local funds as a match. The Metro Transit Infrastructure Fund is a great resource from Sorta Metro here in Cincinnati. It works as local cash, so it can count as your match as well. But there are other state and local funds as well to help with construction and design. Once funds are in place, then you can develop a design engineering and construction schedule and work with selecting a design engineer to take you through the process of engineering and getting ready for construction. So that's really quick overview. It's a small report, but an important study. I'm happy to be able to present this to you today, creating a really important, really great link in a broader regional bike pedestrian network here in the city. So thank you for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions you all have.
While people are thinking of them, I have two questions for you. I can tell you, I know the Transportation Alternatives Program was something that in our last OKI meeting, we did approve 6 of the 8 applications that went in. They were all bike and these same type programs. One of the bigger ones that took a lot of money in the last cycle was the Ohio River Trail down by Sawyer Point that took a lot of funds. It's that same type of project that we have here. A question I have for you on the proposed alternative, I understand why you'd want to be on Route 4 on the east side of the road, but the way that you've designed it, that means you're crossing Route 4 and Sharon, there's 2 crossings then to get to the north. Is there something that we'd have to do different at that intersection to account for that? So at that intersection where Route 4 comes down, if you're on the east side, that means you can, a biker would have to stop and wait for crossing Route 4 and then again to cross Sharon. Are there things that people do in those types of busy interchanges to make it easier for the bike trail to continue?
Yeah, I mean, you know, well, we looked at this. We were looking at cost and a variety of things. You know, you could do an evaluation of the intersection and look at improvements to cross. I mean, it was just improved less than a year ago, I think, with new crosswalks and signals. But you could improve it. You could add signage like rapid flashing beacons to aware drivers. They can be started with a little push button. So you can do signage, signal improvements. I'm sure there's a variety of other items that you could do to improve it as well.
So that's something we'd look at that next phase. Once engineering would start,
Yeah,
we try to figure
yeah.
out the right way to make that a safer interchange.
Yeah, the study that we're presenting here is to figure out if you can build it and kind of how much and what are the constraints, and then you'll work through those things in more detailed design and engineering.
Okay. Mr. Gleaves.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for coming down. Is there any thought to someone like myself? I live right behind Hooters, and we would have to physically put our bikes on a rack or something in our truck to physically drive, take it out, and use the trail. Is there any like loading stations or unloading stations? Any thought for anything like that where you could park, take your bike out?
We didn't really look at parking areas as part of this study, but I mean, there are plenty of available properties. I've done studies with other communities where we've looked at partnering with private property owners for shared parking allowance to allow people to park in a specific area, or including bike parking, like bike racks, for people to use. But we didn't really look at that as part of this study. It was more feasibility of the pathway. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Mayor Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. Appreciate the work that you and the design firm did. This is all helpful. A lot of what we see in here, particularly when we get to Sheffield, is going to involve some collaboration with, obviously you referenced the city of Cincinnati, but also Springfield Township and Forest Park as you're going down that roadway. When you're looking at all of it in terms of cost, is the biggest cost probably going to be what we see along Sheffield in terms of that topography and having to build that up to be able to put a bike path on that roadway in terms of what you've seen?
Yeah, most of the alignment is flat at grade or will require minimum grading. Yeah, the Sheffield Road section involves more walls and more widening of the roadway corridor.
And do you know, in terms of, at least from your guys' standpoint, have you had anyone reach out from Forest Park or Springfield Township with regard to this idea of connectivity? I know that they've been involved with, the Mill Creek canoes in conversation, but has anybody specifically from either of those municipalities reached out with regard to any of these plans?
No, we did not reach out to them as part of the study. I know from, I am the project manager for the Glenwood Gardens Twin Woods project. So I have been in touch with them for like the last 5 years almost, working on that project. I don't think Forest Park or Springfield Township would be involved in any reviews necessarily, except for like utility coordination. We did go through an exercise with the city of Forest Park to get Sheffield Road right-of-way. It had been dedicated but not accepted, and we worked with Forest Park to get that whole corridor documented as existing right-of-way. So I think we've cleared a lot of the hurdles through other projects in getting this stretch designed and constructed.
Thank you.
Mr. Vanover.
Thank you, Mr. President. Looking over the horizon, is there a thought process or an intention that to extend that further north beyond the Crescentville Road, or downtown Springdale, because that once you get up in Fairfield, there's you get up to Mac Road extension, then you lose that shoulder because they took the road down and to go under the railroad track or go over the railroad track, and that's any thought along the Staines line, because obviously there's going to be some negotiation of Route 4. And I know in other places, bike friendly, they have installed new sensors on the signals that will pick up, because most of the sensors that we are using today will not pick up the metal in a bicycle now. So unless you have access to a manual trigger, then you're kind of left hanging out there.
Yeah, so this would be like a side path separate from the roadway. So you wouldn't necessarily need the detection in the roadway. I would think users using this path would use the push buttons at the signals.
Well, where Mr. Glaze was talking, coming down Ray Norrish to Route 4, they come into the, they're on the west side, so they come into the southbound lane. They have to negotiate that to get to the northbound side where the path would be. So there's got to be some way, one way or the other, whether it's a dedicated crosswalk or a multi-use crosswalk or improved signalization to be able to access that side since it's on the northbound side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we didn't really look at like the types of signal improvements that would occur. This was a pretty high level study. I can't speak to the city's plans to improve that necessarily.
We can take that. Mr. Yule.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Eric, thank you very much for the work that you put into this. I do believe Eric is probably the regional expert when it comes to a lot of these shared use and multi-use paths and whatnot, and especially as we engaged KZF years ago to begin our connectivity plan and what that would look like. One of the things we focused on was the jewel that we realized was just to the south of us at Glenwood Gardens, and how are we able to connect into that pathway to allow our residents the opportunity to engage a bigger bike and pedestrian network down in there. So this was kind of that offshoot. That was that next step to, is this even a possibility? It was something that we had in discussions, I believe, during the course of those meetings and whatnot. And this small grant gave us the ability to say, can we do it or not? And so thank you for putting this together. And just to address kind of one of the questions Mr. Gleaves had was, I know Mr. Riggs, and we looked at a grant, it was earlier this year, or about connecting communities who are bisected by highways. And we weren't successful with that grant application, but next time it rolls around, or something else that we could qualify for, we need to better connect our city to get underneath the highway, both on Route 4 and also on 747. So we realize there's opportunities to connect up into Butler County with their connectivity plan up there with the Miami to Miami connection. So there's a couple sites that we could potentially feed to or route to. So kind of as we move forward with different developments and whatnot, to include the Slate Apartments, they'll have a multi-use path along Crescentville that will help get us extend our reach on the northern end. And so as new developments are coming through, we're making sure that this is kind of a priority to help better connect all these different areas. But we do realize there's a few choke points along the way, but we're trying very hard to make those connections from the north and south.
And I can just to add one thing, you know, if this
sometimes. There you go.
We did, if you're looking at this map, this is this is too hard to do. This is 275. We did identify some locations where you could improve crossings on the east and west, but the highway does present a significant challenge trying to even just get around what's there right now.
Again, these are just opportunities. As we have these plans in place, we're able, as these grants come forward and as developments happen, then we can tie into them. So this work is important because now we can say we have an approach and a plan, and we can go after dollars to do it each time as it comes along. I do want to say thank you, Mr. Anderson, for the work KZF does, especially from a cycling and pedestrian background. As an avid cyclist, I've seen the improvement in our region, and when I see OKI approving more of these transportation alternative grants, it is something that more and more communities are looking at. So the work that you're doing to help communities is appreciated. So thank you for this.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
All right. We're still in communications to council. Ms. Potter, are there any other communications for council this evening?
Thank you, Mr. President. No communications.
All right. All right, the next we'll move on to communication. The audience that would like to address council for any reason, simply come forward to the podium, state your name and address, and you have up to 5 minutes to address council. At this point, the floor is now open.
Hello, my name is Dwyer Webster, 12142 Peak Drive here in Springdale. I want to talk a little bit this evening about SOS. It's that time of year again where we're starting to make plans for the holidays, reaching out to needy families and reaching out to donor families. If you'd like to help us out, we can always use the help. We're going to restructure a little bit this year. We're not going to be dealing with foodstuffs. We're not going to collect them from the office buildings, and we're not going to offer them to people. We're going to offer the ones in need. We're going to offer them gift cards, and we just don't have the staff, the facilities, to handle that influx of food. Last year we did, I think, 26 families, and it was a monumental effort. We had, I don't know how many people we had working, maybe 20 people one Sunday afternoon for about 3 hours over at the Kimber Pond Office Park, and it was a monumental effort just for those 26 families. And then that's just the first part of it. Then the families have to come over there and pick it up. Somebody has to be there. And some of these people aren't able to load their own vehicle. So anyway, we've decided we will not be doing foodstuffs. Presents, yes. We're reaching out to not only children, but I think this year we're going to be helping some elderly also. And we're very proud of that. It's been a very eventful year. We've I think helped 3 families that were in bad shape with hoarding. And I know a few years ago we had a presentation at the Board of Health about hoarding. I never knew that was a problem, but evidently it's a major problem, especially with some of the elderly. And so we've got a list of several families there that we're going to help this year with the hoarding problem. So anyway, if you would be so inclined, donations, make checks payable to SOS. You could drop them off here at the city building. I guess SOS got a mailbox over there. Or you could give us a call. Julie Tudor will be taking the calls, 513-505-5707. And if you want to call, get on the list to get a list of families. She'll be taking care of that for us. So anyway, open up your hearts and your wallets. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I will also mention, I believe the SOS is the beneficiary of our upcoming December holiday run. I think the money that's raised for that also goes to SOS along with some funds from the vendor village. So certainly another way, if you don't have the opportunity to give directly, those activities are good for the community and also help SOS. All right, the floor is still open if anyone else would like to address council.
Hi, Frida and Clem Demas, 595 Observatory Drive. We also street comes into us from Lafayette. I would say over the last 9 months, we've been having quite a few problems in the neighborhood. Directly next to us, it is owner occupied, but it appears to be at least 4 or 5 additional families that are living there. And when you multiply that times the number of cars, a lot of illegal parking, the trash has gotten out of control to where they can't completely close. They have 2 large containers, and it's still not enough. So they're not completely closed. So we're also getting more feral animals. It's kind of like a buffet over there. And so not only that, but when the wind blows, then of course the trash kind of travels down. There's also been some other issues with some items that were taken from our yard without permission. And also oil changes made on the property and the oil poured in our front yard. Those are the most significant. There's some other little minor things that are more nuance type of things, but I didn't really know exactly how to approach it, so I did talk to one of the councilmen, David, thank you very much. He was very helpful, who then referred me to Dan, and Dan was extremely responsive, I think within 24 hours. And I appreciate your help. I guess the question is, and I kind of got my answer today, maybe we're experiencing this in other areas, and kind of what is the overall plan? We have we have a pretty decent relationship with our neighbor. We've talked to him about some of these. Sometimes it becomes a language barrier, and sometimes a cultural barrier where he doesn't quite understand property boundaries. And so I've also been talking to Officer Keenan. He also is dealing with a few different departments so that they could also figure out who needs to address what is legal, what is just kind of a nuisance type of a thing. So I wanted to present it to the council just to make sure that you understood that we were experiencing this problem. We've talked to other neighbors and nobody wants to come forward. So it's not like we're the only one. Everyone's talking about it, but nobody really wants to say anything. So that's pretty much it. Did I forget anything? Major. Okay. All right. Thank you for your time.
I don't know if anyone wants to address that. I can tell you, as you heard earlier when we were talking about the rental program committee,
Yes.
One of the things that we talked about was there were several stories of that in different parts of the neighborhood.
Mhm.
It's not unique to where you are. It's not unique to Springdale either.
Mhm.
So one of the things that the rental program committee brought forward that council had approved was a nuisance property ordinance.
Mhm.
That if there's repeat offenders for things that are citable, and that's where Officer Keaton would be good at coordinating
Yes,
that work and the
yes.
building department's engaged
Mhm.
with. As those things come forward, the more times they're documented, the more opportunity the city has to help you bring that property up to be a better community member.
Yes.
It's not that we're trying to penalize people who, for cultural
No, that
reason.
isn't the intention.
But you still have rights as a property
Yes.
owner that you should be able to enjoy your property too,
Mhm.
which is that was one of the major, we heard that story not just from you, but a lot of people around the city, which is
Okay.
why we took that action.
Mhm.
So the nuisance property is one of the things that we did. You also heard about, Officer King probably showed you our notices that were updated that shows how multiple departments can now work on the same problems again and again, and they document those to
Yes.
help the homeowner. Those are some things that council has been able to do so far. The challenge that we have that you heard me speaking on earlier that Mr. Vanover mentioned was the occupancy issue.
Yes.
We do have an occupancy limit that's on our books, but it's not something that's easily enforced because we're not able to go into a house to verify that. If it's a rental property, there's a voluntary program for each time a lease turns over. They're supposed to tell the city who the new leasers are, who's in the building, and that's a health and safety issue.
Right.
The city isn't able to go into that just to check occupancy.
Right.
There has to be a different reason. And that's where you heard Mr. Vanover and the rental program committee said that we're going to take up asking the state and federal government for help with that because the way the laws are written, there's not much more we can do at the city
Understood.
level. But as you see these things externally, you're doing the right things, is to let the city know each time, the non-emergency line or the building department, and they'll send somebody out, and each time it's cited, hopefully we'll get people to understand what's expected.
Right.
So you're doing the right things, and I
Okay,
thank you for coming forward. I think a couple other people wanted to give you some comments here as well. Mr. Jacobs.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm glad you came out. I saw firsthand the problems you were dealing with. There were mattresses in the backyard, and
Yeah.
it was very off-putting, and I know you had other issues with parking, and I
Yes.
remember kids riding down the middle of the street on
Yes.
bicycles. So it's a multitude of problems. I appreciate you coming out to share it with everybody. As was mentioned, it does take residents like you putting it on record, and then a clock starts ticking.
Mhm.
It still will take time, but again, I appreciate you coming out and reaching out to us in the first place. And hopefully get some resolutions, at least on that property next to yours, as soon as possible.
Okay, good. And once again, I wanted to thank David and you also for an extremely quick response and was very helpful in helping me kind of determine what was legal, what was a nuisance, what was old people just worried about stuff. So appreciate your time.
You've got a couple of people. You've touched the nerve. This is something that always people want to talk about because it's a quality of life is important.
Exactly.
So it's hard to come forward, and we appreciate that. Mr. Gleaves?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you so much for coming down and bringing it forward. We've just got to get a grip, basically, as a nation. This is a national problem. You watch the TV, you see 2 or 3 companies that are buying your home. They don't care what condition it's in. is no home ownership. They're renting them out. We got to find a way of knowing who these people are, who owns the homes, and making sure that we have legislation and where we just make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do. And we're going to work on that. So,
Okay, appreciate it.
Appreciate
now, just to be more specific, the home is owner occupied, but there are at least 4 to 5 other families, and I say 4 to 5 because sometimes it's hard to tell because sometimes it changes. And if you multiply that times the number of cars parking on the wrong side of the street, sometimes on the grass also. So it is owner occupied.
Yeah, we hear you. Mayor Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. And so, as it's been said, if there's something that comes up, make sure you contact the city. If you want to contact an elected official to get you to the right spot for the city, do that. There is, I don't know if you're aware of this or not, there is an open case with the building department regarding your neighbor, okay? And I want to make sure
No, I
council's
was
aware
not
of
aware of that.
Yeah, so there's an open case
Okay.
with regard to that. That's being dealt with. I want to make
Okay.
sure you know, council knows, anybody else who's watching
It's
is
good to know
aware.
we're not the only one. That's, okay.
But the main thing is contact the city if there's an issue that comes up so we can address it.
Okay.
Sometimes it's something that's already on the radar. Sometimes it may be something new. So
Okay.
it's something that's being addressed. That process takes some time. People can get cited in the mayor's court if they're not fixing what the issue is, but it is on building department's radar.
Okay, I appreciate your time.
You've got one more comment. Mr.
Okay.
Vanover wants to share his thoughts as well. Mr. Vanover.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you again. This is actually what brought me to form the committee happened probably 5 or 6 years ago. I was listening to a nationally syndicated radio station out of Nashville, Tennessee, and this was their discussion. And the ramifications of this happening, multiple families, increased vehicles, streets were not designed for that. So that was my impetus, and I realized that, well, if Nashville has the problem, and I'm in Heritage Hill, and I have been harping at that and listening to people. I've been out since August talking to residents in my district, and that is, and the rental committee heard it the other night, the other afternoon, that is the common thread. How do we control this?
Okay.
So, and that's our, unfortunately, federal government cut our legs out from under us several years ago on the rental program. It used to be a mandatory inspection once every 3 years, or at change, occupancy change. They said, no, you can't do that. Well, as usually the case, the people that make those decisions don't live in our neighborhoods.
Right.
And they don't have to look at their neighbor and see the problem and the pain that, that you endure. So that's part of my impetus, as I spoke earlier, of getting a resolution and sending it to Columbus. That's our first step. If
Okay.
we go up the ladder
Okay,
and get
good.
some assistance from them, because we need it. And again, it's not unique to Springdale. I know our legal attorney was talking in our meeting that Reading was having the same issue. So it's there, and we are, just because the committee has ended, that has not stopped. It will not stop there. We are going to push up to the next level, and make phone calls, and get our elected officials at that level to become involved and give us some solutions, because that's part of their job.
Agreed.
So, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
One more, I think. Mr. Yule.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, Frida, thank you for coming in, and it's odd seeing you in this capacity, because normally you're the one sitting behind the counter at the
I
community
know.
center, and now we're the ones sitting behind the
know.
counter. But
I work
just-
at the rec
yeah,
center.
right, yeah. I just want to let you know, just to kind of echo what the mayor said, feel free to reach out to us at any point in time. If it's an issue or problem, you're not sure where it goes, you don't even have to think about it. Just let Mr. Wilson know, and he'll make sure it gets to the right people.
Okay, great.
So,
I
yep.
appreciate that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in. All right, the floor is still
Also,
open.
also, Mr. President, Frida, we do appreciate everything you do back at the community center as well. You are a very, very valued employee. Thank you.
Not that there's any special treatment, but thank you. All right, the floor is still open if anyone else would like to address council for any reason. Second call. Third and final call. All right, I'm closing communications in the audience. Next, we'll move on to ordinances and resolutions. First up, we have ordinance number 42, 2025. This is a second reading, but does have the emergency clause now. Mr. Jacobs, when you're ready.
Ordinance number 42, 2025, an ordinance establishing compensation and cost of living adjustments for the offices of mayor, president of council, and mayor and members of city council consistent with state statutes and declaring an emergency. Whereas the city of Springdale seeks to provide fair and competitive compensation for its elected officials, and whereas it is in the public interest to align local elected public official compensation with service credit requirements established by the Ohio Public Employees Retirement System, OPERS, and whereas Ohio Revised Code Section 505.24 provides statutory guidance for compensation increases for township trustees, including annual cost of living adjustments, and whereas the city desires to align its compensation practices with standards used for other elected offices to ensure consistency and transparency, and whereas the city recognizes the importance of providing access to health, vision, and dental insurance benefits to its elected officials in a manner that is equitable and fiscally responsible. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of Springdale, Ohio, members elected thereto concurring. Section 1, mayoral compensation. Effective December 1, 2027, the annual salary of the mayor of the City of Springdale, Ohio shall be established at $25,000, payable in equal monthly installments in accordance with the city's regular payroll schedule. Section 2, council compensation. Effective December 1, 2027, members of the City Council shall receive an annual salary set at $9,975, payable in equal monthly installments in accordance with the city's regular payroll schedule. Section 3, President of Council compensation. The President of Council shall receive an annual salary set at $10,575, payable in equal monthly installments in accordance with the city's regular payroll schedule, in recognition of additional responsibilities associated with this position. Section 4, annual adjustments. Beginning January 1, 2028, the salaries established in this ordinance shall automatically increase each calendar year by the same percentage increase as the cost of living adjustments applied to township trustees under Ohio Revised Code Section 505.24. These increases shall not require additional legislative action and shall be applied on January 1 of each applicable year. Section 5, OPERS service credit eligibility. Compensation provided under this ordinance shall be administered in a manner that ensures all elected officials remain eligible to earn full service credit under the Ohio Public Employees Retirement System, OPERS, in accordance with minimum salary thresholds as annually determined by OPERS rules and guidance. Section 6, Springdale Community Center membership. Effective December 1, 2027, each elected official of the City of Springdale shall be entitled to a complimentary family membership at the Springdale Community Center for the duration of their service in office. All additional fees associated with classes, programs, events, rental rooms, activities, or clubs shall be the sole responsibility of the elected official. Section 7, administrative authorization. The city administrator is hereby authorized to implement this compensation schedule, adjust rates annually, and ensure timely reporting and remittance of OPERS contributions as provided by this ordinance. Section 8, the council hereby finds and determines that all formal actions relative to the passage of this legislation were taken in an open meeting of this council, and that all deliberations of this council, and if its committees, if any, which resulted in formal action, were taken in meetings open to the public in full compliance with applicable legal requirements, including Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. Section 9, that this ordinance shall take effect on the earliest date allowed by law. Section 10, that this ordinance shall be an emergency measure necessary for the preservation of the public peace, health, safety, and general welfare, and shall, subject to the terms of Article 2D, 3D of the Charter, be effective immediately. The reason for said declaration of emergency is to ensure compliance with Ohio law regarding the passage and application of the proposed compensation adjustments.
Council, you've heard the second reading of ordinance number 42, 2025. It does have the emergency clause. What is your pleasure?
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or discussion? Mr. Jacobs?
Thank you, Mr. President. At our last meeting, we removed a section that we had discussed in terms of providing health insurance to our members. I don't know if there's that last whereas section where it does bring up health insurance, vision and dental insurance still in the ordinance. But I wanted to make a motion to strike section 6, and I'm open to discussion on it. Personally, I feel like purchasing a membership is almost an obligation of council members, and I think especially with the fact that we would be receiving an adjustment in our compensation, I'd like to see us put that money right back into the city and buy our own rec center passes. That's my position on Section 6. Thank you.
So just to be clear, so you were giving deliberation there. If you're making a motion, you would need to make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to strike Section 6 from this ordinance.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. So at this point, I'm open for deliberation around the motion to amend to strike Section 6. Are there questions or discussion on that motion? Mr. Vanover, is this on this motion? Is your light on this motion? Okay. Mr. Gleaves.
Well, to be clear, I don't really have a problem with it. I don't see an issue with it. You know, it's one of those things that, you know, we work hard. I think we work hard. Our job is to work for the community, and I appreciate the mayor bringing this forward to bring us more with the team. This is something that's been given to other city employees, and I know there's maybe there need to be some clarification of what we are, what body we are, but I think we're a city employee, and I don't see any issue with this. I just want to state that.
Mayor Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to remind everybody, we folks did this some the last time this came up in the last meeting. There's a lot of we, me, I. It's important, again, people get caught up into this. This isn't for anybody who's sitting on this dais in a current capacity right now. So the terminology needs to be for whomever she or he is that fills those seats, whether it's a district, whether it's at large, whether it's the mayor, whoever she or he may be, that's what this is for. So it's not about whether I want to have health insurance or I want to go to the rec center. It's about what do you think for that person that's going to sit in that seat, what should their compensation be? Very important. So a lot of this happened last time too. It's not about what you think for you, it's what you think for that next person, okay? Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Mr. Jacobs.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate the intent behind all of this. And my view on Section 6, it's not that this is going to save some vast amount of money. And that's not the reason. But I will say the I in the message is, I don't think a member of council should receive this benefit. I do believe that council members of the future should be expected to pay that out of their own pocket. That's just where I'm sitting on whether it's future council members or the principle of the matter. But again, I appreciate the intent behind all of this. Thank you.
Ms. Sullivan-Wisecup.
Thank you, Mr. President. Number one, I know that Mr. Gleaves had asked what we are. We're elected officials. We're not employees. We don't have a, we are not hired by anyone other than the electors. And so that makes it different than an employee, because an employee is you interview, you get a job, you do your job, whatever. It's a little bit different. I don't know if that matters or not when it comes to that. My question was, I know that we're not allowed to accept gifts from outside things. Looks like we can't accept presents over a certain amount or like gifts for things. Would this be considered part of compensation? Would it be like when we go to file our taxes, is the money for the membership on this, or is it just a gift? And if so, is that a problem? I just want to make sure that I honestly will not be here because I'm not running. So I know for a fact this has no bearing on me. I want to understand so that whomever in the future is going to be sitting in this seat, I want clarification on that. That's my question.
Mayor Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. Excellent question. And we went over this with regard to Mr. Braun, and Mr. Braun had looked at these things too. There was no issue with regard to this being a gift or anything that would run afoul. There are a number of different communities that have different sets of compensation for elected officials. And so Administratively, we looked at that, presented that to Finance Committee as well in terms of being able to see sort of what some other places do. But this would just be something that's in line with compensation, not necessarily a gift. Yeah. And whatever, whatever council thinks is what it is. I don't care beyond the fact I think it's important that elected officials should be above the minimum for PERS. Beyond that, there are ideas that came up, and like I said, the rec center thing was something that when we're dealing with employees having it, I was thinking there's like, well, elected officials should have that too, but whatever council thinks with regard to it is fine by me.
All right, and we're still talking just about the motion to remove Section 6. Ms. Webster.
Thank you. I am looking at this with different eyes. I don't have any doubt in my mind that all of us up here, including myself, ran for the betterment of this city and to do a job. But I think that these perks, and I call them perks, are going to get people to run just to get them, and will not have the city's interest at their best. And that's the way I'm looking at this. And when I looked at it in Finance Committee, it all sounded good, and I studied it later and thought about it, and that's where I'm coming from. I just feel that this could happen. It might be happening now. Thank you.
Mr. Vanover, still on Section 6.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I would beg to differ with Ms. Weisskopf. You get a W-2, you have to pay tax on it. How we got to this point is different, but our electorate interviews us, and that's what it is. So we are an employee, plain and simple. And Ms. Webster, I respect you and I respect your opinion on this, but quite honestly, if we look at that as a perk, payroll is a perk. And if somebody's going to run for this position because they get paid, there's not much we can do except be aware and be an intelligent voter and make sure that before we pull that trigger that they're there. So it matters not to me. Again, it doesn't go into effect until December 1st, 2027. I've reached the glorious stage that I have silver sneakers, and so this benefit doesn't really affect me personally. But again, this is for the next group, and that's kind of what you look at it. I mean, when I started down this path, my philosophy was I found the seat in a certain position, and my goal was to leave it in better, or at least the very same position I found it. So, and I think that's, I pray that that's the mentality that anybody that gets up here operates from. But I really don't have a problem with the membership. Yes, they can pay. It's not a big deal, but it is offered to employees. Now, the membership differs from the healthcare issue that we deleted because that definitely could run people afoul and cost them money. So it was checked and found that at least under the current IRS tax codes that this is not a taxable benefit. So now, tomorrow it might change, or 5 years down the road that might change, and then that's something. And again, this is not cut in stone. I mean, we can always go back and revisit that issue, but if that would change. But I personally don't have a hard negative feeling on that.
Ms. McFarland.
Thank you, Mr. President. Personally, I think it's a nice benefit, whatever word you want to use for it. I do think about the future potential of where our community center may go. If the cost increases, I would hate to see an elected official not be able to afford that and feel like they are not serving their community to their best ability because they cannot provide that membership. I certainly don't have a problem with people choosing to pay it if they choose to, but to leave it as an option to somebody that if they want to accept that as a benefit that the city is giving, then that's something we can do as well. And I'm not sure if that's even an option. But, you know, everybody has their opinions, and is that something that we can keep that in there, but people can continue to pay for that if they wish?
All right, we're still discussing the motion to strike Section 6. Any other questions or discussion on that? I will say from my part, I think it's such a minor thing, and I think it gives a message too that the elected official is a part of that community center too. I don't think it's about the money. I think it's about removing a barrier that may or may not exist. I don't think anybody I've ever talked to that's run for council or been on council before has ever said that a membership would change their opinion or desire to help or work. I do think that it's in line with the way that employees are treated in general and members of the community, so I don't have any problem with the membership. And with that, I don't see any other lights. So at this point, we're gonna poll council on it, but just to understand, a vote of yes is a vote to strike Section 6 from the legislation. A vote of no is to leave it in. All right. So a vote of yes strikes it. A vote of no is to leave it in. And with that, Ms. Browder, if you poll council on the motion to strike Section 6.
Mr. Jacobs?
Yes.
Mrs. Webster?
No.
Mr. Vanover?
No.
Ms. McFarland?
No.
Mr. Gleaves?
No.
Ms. Sullivan-Weisskopf?
No.
Mr. Anderson?
No. The motion to strike Section 6 fails with 6 negative votes. All right, we're still in the motion in discussion for ordinance number 42, 2025 as a whole. Before we continue, there was a question about the whereas clause. Is my understanding is that's a Scribner's error and could be stricken. We don't need to do a motion to amend to remove that line from the whereas.
Correct. No motion is necessary.
Okay. So you can strike that off of your own as you're considering it, that is a Scribner's error, and that will just be removed from the final version. I'm sorry? So, Ms. Webster, there was a comment that Mr. Jacobs brought forward on the whereas clause. It still references health, vision, and dental insurance, which our last amendment removed as a motion we did in our last meeting. So what the law director stand-in has confirmed is that we do not need a motion to strike that from the whereas. It's considered a Scribner's error, meaning it's just a typo, and we can continue in the final version. Those words won't be there. Does that make sense? Okay. Mr. Vanover.
Thank you, Mr. President. In reviewing this and going over this with the Finance Committee, and I've had further discussions with the administration about, because there was a question about council having a marker on what this increase is going to be. That will be presented at the budget, so in Finance Committee, so we will have a chance prior to, if we deem it's out of line, then we can check it at that point and make an adjustment from there. So that's, you know, the assurances I've gotten from the administration, and I feel comfortable at that level.
I do have a question related to this. This ordinance deals with the elected officials. I think it was around last year, there was a request brought forward around boards and commissions. Maybe it was 2 years ago, that we haven't reassessed those in some time. At that point, that research showed that we were still very much in line with other communities, but I suspect that that has changed or should change as well. I guess it's not directly related to this, but is there intent to also address that as part of the budgeting process going forward? Because I would expect that to come in the December, January time when we adjust city employee wages. Is that something that's being considered or could be considered along with this? I just don't like the even the message that we're dealing with elected officials, but then ignoring the commissions that also do this important work. Mr. Yule.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, when we looked at other boards and commissions in surrounding communities, we were the anomaly. I would say the vast majority are non-compensated for boards and commissions. There's only a few in, I know Sharonville Civil Service Commission is compensated. Part of that is because they do a lot of work with the school board as well. So a lot of work on them for that. But when we looked at surrounding communities, and not just in our county, but other surrounding counties, we were the anomaly.
But but specifically, if we wanted to adjust that, we still have the opportunity to do that just as part of the normal process and budgeting. I just know that I look at the work that planning and BZA and the Civil Service Commission especially do. I mean, those are monthly meetings too, and that hasn't changed in almost as long as ours hasn't changed. So I hope that we can look at that, and maybe that's a conversation for offline. Mayor Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. As Mr. Yule indicated, and my predecessor, I think it stated this once before too, when I think that issue came up, most folks aren't getting paid to do those tasks. Mr. Yule's on the Planning Commission? Zoning Commission. He's still waiting for his first check, okay? So it's something that shows an appreciation. Someone may say it's a nominal amount, but the fact that the city of Springdale for decades has done that for people that are on Board of Health, Planning, Rec Commission, and BZA really speaks to showing some type of value for them, but it is not something that other communities typically do. And when we talk about our one neighbor and some of the amounts that they're paying for their elected officials, they're not doing it. So it says something with regard to that it's more of an anomaly. But again, council's controlling the purse strings, but just in terms of a point of reference, most folks don't get paid to do those things.
All right, but that's something council could address later, separate from this if we wanted to. All right, Mr. Vanover.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Hawkins mentioned the Board of Health, and actually they are a recent addition to the pay, because I remember years back when I was on that board, it was volunteer. The state dictated that you could not pay them. So that has changed, and that obviously we reflect it that way.
Any other questions or discussion on ordinance number 42, 2025? All right, I will remind council that as it has the emergency clause now, it does take 5 affirmative votes to pass as an emergency measure, meaning what it would take to take effect in the timeline that would be needed for the dates included. A vote of, if only 4 votes for it, it still would pass just without the emergency clause. All right, and with that, Ms. Brown, if you poll council on ordinance number 42, 2025.
Mr. Vanover?
Aye.
Mrs. Sullivan Meiskop?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Mrs. Webster?
Aye.
Mr. Gleaves?
Aye.
Mr. Jacobs?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye. Ordinance number 42, 2025 passes with 7 affirmative votes. All right. Next, we'll move on to ordinance number 43, 2025. This is the first reading. Mr. Jacobs, when you're ready.
Ordinance number 43, 2025, an ordinance declaring certain city property as surplus property and authorizing the sale, disposal, or transfer of surplus property. Whereas the council has determined that certain property of the city is no longer needed by the city for municipal purposes or useful as such, absolutely or temporarily. Now therefore be it ordained by the council of the city of Springdale, Ohio, members elected thereto concurring, Section 1, that consistent with Article 8, Section C3 of the Charter of the City, and as permitted by Ohio Revised Code Section 721.15, the items listed on the attached Exhibit A, owned by the city, are hereby declared to be surplus property no longer needed for municipal purposes or useful as such, absolutely or temporarily, and that such property may be sold by internet auction or otherwise, transferred or disposed of by the city. Section 2, that the city administrator is hereby authorized to dispose of said property in the manner specified herein. Section 3, the council hereby finds and determines that all formal actions relative to the passage of this legislation were taken in an open meeting of this council, and that all deliberations of this council and of its committees, if any, which resulted in formal action, were taken in meetings open to the public in full compliance with applicable legal requirements, including Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. Section 4, that this ordinance shall take effect on the earliest date allowed by law.
Council, this was the first reading of ordinance number 43, 2025. Any questions or discussion this evening? Seeing none, we will see this again at our next meeting. Next up, we have Resolution R17, 2025. Mr. Jacobs.
Resolution number R-17, 2025, a resolution of the City of Springdale, Ohio, supporting the Ohio Commission for the United States Semi-Quintessential America 250. Whereas the Ohio Legislature and Governor created America 250 OH in 2021 to plan, encourage, develop, and coordinate the commemoration of the 250th anniversary of the United States and Ohio's integral role in that event and the role of its people on the nation's past, present, and future. And whereas America 250 OH hopes to engage all Ohioans in all 88 counties through their many signature and officially recognized programs, projects, and events over the next several years by inspiring future leaders and celebrating all Ohioans' contributions to the nation over the last 250 years. And whereas by adoption of this America 250 OH resolution, we hope to educate, preserve, innovate, and celebrate. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Springdale, Ohio, members elected thereto concurring. Section 1, that the Council of the City of Springdale hereby endorses America 250 OH and their mission to educate, preserve, innovate, and celebrate every Ohioan in every county. Section 2, that the Clerk of Council is hereby directed to send a copy of this resolution to the America 250 OH Commission. Section 3, the Council hereby finds and determines that all formal actions relative to the passage of this legislation were taken in an open meeting of this Council, and that all deliberations of this Council, and of its committees, if any, which resulted in formal action, were taken in meetings open to the public in full compliance with applicable legal requirements, including Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. Section 4, that this resolution shall take effect on the earliest date allowed by law.
Council, you've heard the reading of Resolution R-17, 2025. What is your pleasure?
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or discussion? I will remind Council, this was the resolution that Council requested through a vote in the last meeting, which is why you also see it under old business, which is part of our rules. I do see that this fulfills the needs or the requests from our last meeting, so we can act on this tonight. If this passes, just understand there's additional work that Council and administration will be required to do. There's a committee that will be formed. We'll be asked to put together some activities. I think one of the keystone ones that every community is supposed to do is a reading of the Declaration of Independence. That happens as a community event during the celebration, and then other activities that might happen. I don't know if there's anything else that administration wanted to add to that. Mr. Gleaves.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to thank administration for getting that PDF out to us. That helped a lot. I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, and the other thing I will mention that is, if this passes in old business, something else we're going to have to talk about is the forming of a committee. So one of the requirements is that some group is put together to help spearhead the work that would happen, and we can decide the best way to do that if this passes. All right, any other questions or discussion on the resolution? All right, seeing none, Ms. Browder, if you poll council.
Mr. Vanover?
Aye.
Mrs. Salvo-Meiskop?
Aye.
Mr. Gleaves?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Mrs. Webster?
Aye.
Mr. Jacobs?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye. Resolution R-17, 2025 passes with 7 affirmative votes. All right. That's the end of ordinances and resolutions. Next, we'll move on to old business. As I mentioned, there's an item, America 250, that we just passed the resolution that we're going to become an America 250 community. So I don't know if people had thoughts on the best way to do that. What I'd propose is that now that we know that we've done this, to review the material that they sent. There's a description inside of it for a committee that needs to be formed or a group that would work. I would assume it would include members of council and administration if they're willing, as we figure out what that calendar of events would look like. So I'm going to propose that just we think about that work, and then at our next meeting, come prepared to discuss it as part of old business. So we'll leave this on the agenda for our next meeting. My expectation is that we'll form a committee that will do whatever work is required there, because there's some administrative work that will have to happen. All right? Mr. Vanover?
Thank you, Mr. President. The only word of caution I would say is that because we have elections pending in front of us, that we postpone this committee formation until afterwards, and the people have given their voice.
Right, so that was one of the reasons I didn't want to do it tonight, is because our next meeting would be after the election, and we'd have some more visibility there. There is a requirement as part of joining it that we form a committee, I think within 30 days of it being accepted. So there will be a timer, but to your point, I agree. That's the reason I want to make sure that we've got good coverage there. Mayor Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. One moment.
He's checking his cheat sheet. If you're looking at the flow chart, the next step is they accept us, and then we have to form a committee.
So this is something that administratively we talked about while this process was coming through and coming to council. And so part of it, it would appear, and we can double check with legal counsel, that within 30 days, we have to have either designees or a committee formed. And so administratively, part of what we were thinking was we can make designees administratively and allow the new council post December 1 to formulate that committee at that time. So as a suggestion, we've taken care of the designee part that I think is within the 30 days. We can double check with legal counsel, but I think that we're in good stand with regard to that and allow council to move forward at that after we have the election.
Yeah, I think so. I think the 30-day counter is after they accept us. So I think we've got time either way. But nonetheless, I don't think we have to do any action tonight. But it's just to make people aware that since we passed it, you might want to look at that again and see if there's other things we can address. And we'll take that up at our next meeting. All right, is there any other old business anyone on council would like to bring forward? All right, seeing none. New business? I believe Mr. Vanover.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would ask council's concurrence that we draw up a resolution and forward to Columbus asking for their support and legislation addressing the issues of some of the rental, and actually was sitting here thinking we might be able, it might be beneficial to either reach out to the Center for Local Governments and maybe give the other communities an opportunity because the numbers, there's safety in numbers, and it's a louder voice than just us calling in the wilderness.
So I guess that's an item for discussion. It's not a motion yet, but what does council think about engaging with our lobbyists first before we write a letter? Either way, we can write a stern letter. We've done that before with other things where we've written a letter to our with a motion to describe the issue to our legislative state level reps and beyond that. So we can write a letter ourselves, or we can engage with the Center for Local Government first. What do people think about that? This is around the occupancy limit that we were talking about earlier, where federal and state law has really prevented us from being able to enforce the rules that we think are important for health and safety. What do people think? Ms. McFarland.
Thank you, Mr. President. I couldn't agree more with Mr. Vanover. We had the audience member just tonight with these concerns, and it wasn't even a rental property. So I think certainly maybe partnering with some of our communities nearby, I think we all know this isn't a Springdale issue. So I don't think it would be hard to find some backup to go to the state with us to try and get some attention on the matter.
Ms. Sullivan-Wisecup.
Thank you, Mr. President. I agree also. I think that it would have a little more traction up at the state if we had some more voices with us.
Yeah, there's nothing prevents individual elected officials to speak to other elected officials and get that support. The question is, what's the best way to engage our lobbying arm? Is that something, I don't know if Mayor Hawkins or Mr. Yule would want to speak to, is that something that you think we should do first from your experience with that, or should we just start as a legislative body down that path? Mr. Yule.
If council wishes, I think maybe a better lobbying arm would be the Ohio Municipal League.
Yeah.
I think they're probably a little more impactful, especially with this. The Center for Local Government is more of almost like a regional council of governments. So I think OML was probably our best recourse. And I can look at that into reaching out to them a little bit further to find out what, if anything, that they've done up to this point, and then kind of report back to council on our next meeting.
I certainly think that's a great approach, is that if you could do the research before we take any sort of action. I don't want to get in front of that research. Mr. Vanover, do you feel that that's appropriate? I know we talked about this at the rental committee. I don't want to step on those motions that we made.
I have no problem with that.
Okay, myself, Wisecup, okay. All right, do you need anything else from us in order, I think you understand the issue, you've been in all the meetings. Okay, so we'll go ahead and include that in old business on our next agenda, an update for the OML and the occupancy issue, and we'll have that at our next meeting to discuss. All right? All right, any other new business? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to meetings and announcements. Ms. Sullivan Wisecup.
Thank you, Mr. President. Planning Commission will meet in these chambers at 7 p.m. on November 11th.
Mr. Yule.
Thank you, Mr. President. Two events going on back at our community center. On Saturday, October the 18th, we will have our shred event, and that starts at 9:30 a.m. and runs till noon or until the truck is full. Residents are requested to present a photo ID indicating that they are a Springdale resident. The second event that we have back at our community center is on Saturday, October the 25th. That is our Spooky Boo Bash, and that runs from 2 to 4, and that is for kids 10 and under to partake in games, haunted rooms, some treats, and a costume contest.
Mr. Gleaves.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Zoning Code Revision Committee will be meeting this Monday, the 20th, at 2:30 p.m. And BZA will be meeting the 28th. We have a training session that will start at 6 p.m. and our meeting will start at 7 p.m. right here in these chambers. That's all I have. Thank you.
Stone meetings and announcements. All right, seeing none, we'll move on to communications from the audience. This is the second and final time this evening. If anyone in the audience would like to address council for any reason, simply come forward to the podium, state your name and address, and you can address council for up to 5 minutes. At this point, the floor is now open for communications from the audience. Second call. Third and final call. All right, I'm closing communications from the audience, and we're going to move on to a recap of legislative items and legislation still in development. Mr. Jacobs.
Council, as you review your legislative summary, item 1, an ordinance establishing compensation and cost of living adjustments for the offices of mayor, president of council, and members of city council consistent with state statutes and declaring an emergency, received a second reading. It was addressed by ordinance 42, 2025, receiving 7 affirmative votes. Item 2, a resolution of the City of Springdale, Ohio, supporting the Ohio Commission for the United States Semi-Quincentennial America 250 celebration, was addressed by resolution 17, 2025, and will be back. Or no, we supported that with 7 affirmative votes?
Yes.
Thank you. And item 3, received a first reading, an ordinance declaring certain city property as surplus property and authorizing the sale, disposal, or transfer of surplus property. That was addressed by ordinance number 43, 2025, again receiving a first reading. Items in development include item 4, an ordinance amending chapter 94 of the Springdale Code of Ordinances regulating taxation. That'll be in front of council at our November 5th meeting for a first reading. Item 5, a resolution adopting a Safe Streets for All safety action plan for the city of Springdale, Ohio, will also receive a first reading at our November 5th meeting. And that's all unless administration has anything else.
I don't see anything else. All right, all that's left before us is item 16.
Move to adjourn.
We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.